This is Just a Thought, episode number 30. The Blizzard and My Rearview Mirror.
Hello, hello, hello! I have a story. A few months ago, I was driving through a blizzard, and it was really exciting and kind of scary. I couldn't see very far ahead, and everything was so snowy and foggy, and so I kept glancing in my rearview mirror to check on the cars behind me and make sure they were doing what they should be doing, slowing down when I was slowing down. And I also just kept glancing back because it was something to do. And I realized at one point that looking back occasionally was helpful. It gave me a little perspective on where I was and where I had been and who was around me. But ultimately, I needed to be looking forward, straight ahead, focused on where I was going. If I looked back behind me in my rearview mirror for too long, I could very quickly find myself off the road or crashing into things around me. I didn't stay focused on the rearview mirror, but I thought it was interesting how much I wanted to. I just kept wanting to glance back and see what was behind me and keep watching. But I realized I do that in real life too. I want to focus on the past and think that things are going to be the same in the future because that's how they have been in the past. I want to focus on things I regret, things I wish I could have done differently. But just like the storm passed, and I could still see it in my rearview mirror when I looked back, the day ahead of me was bright and beautiful with lots of blue sky, and it's similar. Sometimes when I want to achieve a goal or make a request of someone, I often look to my results in the past. And of course, this is a normal and fine thing to do, but it's unhelpful if I believe that my results going forward are going to be the same as the ones I had in the past. Just like the road I was driving on changed from a snowy blizzard to a nice bright day, our circumstances usually change too. What doesn't change is our attitude, unless we choose to change it. We're going to keep that no matter what circumstances we're in. If the three feelings that we usually feel are negative ones, it doesn't matter what changes in our lives. We're going to keep that habitual pattern of thought because our brains like to take things easy. If those ones have been working for us, we're going to keep thinking that way. Also, back to the blizzard analogy, I realized I could look way far forward into the distance ahead, especially when it wasn't snowing. But it wasn't helpful to look too far, especially not for too long. All I needed to see to get to the place I wanted to go was where I was and what was right ahead of me. I just needed to focus on staying on the road that would take me there and make sure that I wasn't getting distracted by the things I was passing or cars in other lanes. And I needed to focus on my car, keeping it safe from other cars, keeping it fueled up, getting back on the road when I took a rest stop, right? Just because I take a rest stop doesn't mean I just end the trip. No, getting where I was going was important to me. So I take a rest stop and I get back on the road. And then just focusing on what was just ahead. It was really fun and interesting to glance up and see the snow whirling behind me and the road disappear. But it wasn't going to help me get where I wanted to go if I kept my eyes on my rearview mirror. And it's interesting to me that when we feel shame or regret and keep our eyes on the rearview mirror of our lives, we'll keep getting stuck. I personally don't feel like regret is a very useful emotion, but it can be. I just don't think it should be used for very long. It's like using the rearview mirror in the car or like using the broil setting on the oven. Quick uses of these things are awesome, but long ones lead to accidents and burnt food. Glancing in the rearview mirror is helpful. That's why it's there. But looking forward to what's next and doing the little things to course correct and stay on our lane is what keeps us safely moving forward. And then all we have to do is just keep going. Continuing on even when it's boring and even when it's slow. What can we do if we're feeling a lot of regret and we're driving ourselves crazy with our thoughts and our feelings? We can make the decision to change our mind. And then, when thoughts reeking regret come, redirect. Then focus your eyes forward again. Our thoughts really want to show up in our minds as circumstances. But if they're carrying a feeling around with them, they're a thought, not a circumstance. A circumstance is a fact with no feelings attached. That's all it is. What happened? Figuring out what actually happened in our past is a great way to just kind of get a glance back. What was the circumstance? And then we can analyze what our thoughts were about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe things were meant to be left undone. Maybe what I did was wrong, but maybe it was meant to be done. Because something's already happened, and I can't change it, and you can't change it, it can be just as true to say something should have happened, was meant to have happened, even if I believe it was wrong or painful. Because I believe if it wasn't meant to happen, God wouldn't have let it happen. Our circumstances are simply coordinates of where we are at. And it's essential to recognize and accept them if we want to intentionally decide where to go next. Imagine if I was in Texas and I wanted to go somewhere else. I would need to recognize where I was if I wanted to stay in the state or go to a new one. Either way, it would be essential to know where I am before I can go where I want to go. So it is with everything else. We can wander around where we are, wishing we could go somewhere else. But until we really observe where we are and begin making a plan and taking steps to go somewhere else, it's hard to get to where we wish we were. The good news is we can change. And usually the only thing in between us and the change is a thought. We're going to make mistakes. Life is going to be messy. We make the choices we make for reasons that seem reasonable in the moment. But I recommend we all decide to have our own backs. Stick to the decisions we have made as being right at the time. We may as well decide that it was supposed to happen the way it happened, and know that thankfully something else can happen now as we face a new direction. That's what repentance is. Changing our direction from where we are and facing God again. I wish you lots of peace in your journey. This is Christina Stead. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a disciple of Jesus Christ. He loves me, He loves you, and He loves us. This is a podcast for parents willing to change their mind and change their lives. And this is just a thought.